Hello, I'm Deb Morgan of Not a Rehearsal, and I'm joined today by Sharon Brown, who is the founder of Revival Sanctuary and also the managing director of Lydian Events Limited. Now, I've got the honour and the privilege to be interviewing all of the authors, or a number of the authors who contributed to this book, Revival, Women Embracing Their Superpowers. And this book was the brainchild of Sharon. So I'm absolutely thrilled and delighted to be able to interview Sharon today. Now, Sharon, first of all, can you tell me, where did the idea come from? How did you decide you wanted to do a book? Why did you decide you wanted to create a book like this?
Well, first of all, thanks, Debs. It's great to be here. So the book, it's something that we were starting off as a digital version. So when I started Revival Sanctuary, I keep saying we. Do you notice I keep saying we because it feels like a we now because everybody's so involved. But when I started Revival Sanctuary a couple of years ago, a lot of women had kind of asked if they could share their story. They'd said that that's something that they wanted to do. So I kind of built the Revival platform around that originally. And, you know, the promise was always we were going to do an ebook. So that kind of evolved once we got, and it took us some time to get the amount of people that we got for the book to actually agree to do the book, because I think the women involved were a little bit shy. I think they were probably feeling a little bit vulnerable and open to doing a book. So it took some persuasion, but we got there in the end 2 years later. And we had Marcia join the group, who runs a publishing house. So Marcia gave us the opportunity to actually publish the book. And it was a no-brainer from there, to be honest, Deb. I just thought, why not? Let's just do it. And you know, the rest history. So we're now on to our second book, and that's running forward already as we speak.
That's fantastic. Now, you talked about having to persuade the women initially to share their stories. And I'm curious, where did you learn your powers of persuasion? Has that got something to do with growing up on a council estate in Glasgow?
It could very well be. There was a lot of persuasion involved in that. But to be honest, I don't know. I think my powers of persuasion are probably because people can see that I'm genuine. They can see that I'm authentic. They can see that, you know, I want to help them. And anytime I do something within Revival Sanctuary, there's always another reason or another few reasons around it. And one of the biggest reasons is to push them forward. I understood quite early on that, you know, when you're sharing your story and you're sharing certain things about yourself and you've got that authenticity, that you're going to connect to other people emotionally. And that's the key. So when these women have been sharing their stories and sharing their vulnerabilities and everything around, I mean, there is only 1,000 words, so they've had to cram quite a lot into that small space, but they've done a fantastic job of it. But it really, really, every story in that book resonates with somebody for some reason or another. So it's been very, very powerful for them. A couple of the ladies have said it's been very cathartic, even writing the stories in the first place without publishing them, just actually putting it pen to paper. Because sometimes when you think about your story, you miss a lot. And then when you write it down, you think, whoa, I know that's how I felt when I wrote mine as well. So yeah, I think in terms of powers of persuasion, I think they just needed a gentle nudge to get out there, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And going back to your story, I mean, yours is the very first story in the book, and I've read a number of the stories in the book, and I'm still reading through them. You were born and brought up on a Glasgow council estate, and what struck me about your story was that you talk in it about running away and hiding from, or having to front up to gangs of girls, and yet here you are a number of years later down the line actually creating a gang of girls, for want of a better phrase. So I'm interested in the journey that gets you from there to, from sort of being afraid of women, to getting to a point now where, in your own words, you collaborate with women to create something better and to lift women up. So I'm interested in that change, if you like. that
That's a
journey?
really good question, actually, Deb. And I haven't thought about it that way, but so you kind of put me on the spot here, but I'll run with it. But yeah, I mean, it was quite tough growing up in Glasgow, especially, I guess, in the 70s and the 80s as well. It was I'd never been, I couldn't say I was afraid, but you had to kind of protect yourself. So, I tried to avoid certain groups, and there was a lot of bullying involved back in the day, and there was a lot of problems. So my first impression really of being around a lot of women was negative, and that kind of I don't know, although my mother is a huge inspiration to me, but actually being around other women and seeing jealousy and seeing that competitive streak and everything that goes around with that, it probably gave me a very negative sense of being around women when I was growing up. And then when I went into the corporate world, I had quite a similar experience where, and don't get me wrong, that could be me projecting it. I don't know, just putting it out there, but it could have been. I could have been attracting it to me because of my negativity and the way that I thought about it subconsciously anyway. And now that I'm saying that, that's a good possible. But because of those negative feelings, that's why I wanted to create something that was the complete opposite, because I thought there has to be other women out there who feel the same way as me, who have had bad experiences with other women, and who are feeling a little bit, is there anything for me out there? And that's one of the reasons I created Revival Sanctuary, because I thought, if I can create somewhere, and to be honest, Deb, at the start, I wasn't sure I could. I wasn't sure it was going to happen, because I thought, is there actually people out there that think the same way as me? But 2 years on, and here we are, and it's full of like-minded women that empower you and uplift you. So, I've completely turned my thoughts and feelings around my last experiences in the corporate world to now, and these women have just taught me so much. So yeah, it's a very interesting thought.
And you talk in your story a lot about the wisdom of women, which I think is really, really important. And I'm interested to know if you could speak to your younger self, and you talk about your childhood and your teenage years in Glasgow, and I've sort of interpreted it that you were perhaps a little bit of a wild child,
Yeah.
and I can relate to that myself. But if you could speak to your younger self now, what would you tell her? What wisdom would you impart to the young Sharon?
Well, yes, you're absolutely right. I was a party girl. For a lot of years, I just went a bit crazy. And actually, in hindsight, when I look back now, the way my life is now, the person I am now, and I look back 15, 20 years, it's like somebody else's life. It just doesn't feel like it was me. And I've still got all those memories. I've still got all those good times, those crazy times. But would I go back? No, I wouldn't. I've done it now. It's great, and and it's something that'll take me forward. But what would I say to myself? Would I change anything? Probably not. I definitely wouldn't change anything. So if I was giving myself some advice, I'd say just live your life. Probably take a little bit better care of your health. Stop smoking a lot earlier than I did. Stop drinking a lot earlier than I did. Stop doing a lot of things a lot earlier than I did. But other than that, to be honest, I do not regret anything in my life today. I think everything that has happened, good and bad, has pushed me to the point I'm at now. And the point I'm at now, I actually really like myself. I like my life. I couldn't ask for any more. I feel extremely blessed. And, who knows where my life would be if I hadn't experienced the things that I have. I could have had a really kind of, I don't know, silver spoon in the mouth life, if you like, and my life could be completely different to it is now. So I'm just thankful for the experiences I've had and the way it's kind of shaped my character.
Fantastic. And you talk about having no regrets, and I think that's so vitally important. And many, many women can get to sort of their midlife years, and lots of them say, no, I've got absolutely no regrets. Lots of people, you know, we all have a story. But then you meet lots of other women who say, oh, I really regret doing this or not doing that. So it's really lovely to hear that you have no regrets from living your life, you know. And one of the things you just said just now was that you didn't particularly like yourself back then, or rather that you like yourself now. And I know from reading your story, you said you didn't like yourself back then. Do you think that impacted on your behaviours?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. I think everything that happens in your life can impact on your behavior, and especially if you don't understand it. In the last few years, I've really came to understand mindfulness. I've came to understand self-awareness, self-analysis, you know, so many things to make me look inside myself. And I think probably back then, I just wasn't in that place. I wasn't in that place to put judgment on myself or criticize myself for what I was doing. I just kind of went with it, and just a completely different mindset, Deb, completely and utterly different mindset. And, you know, that's why I'm really thankful now, because in Revival Sanctuary, I have to say, has helped in that transition a lot, because of the way that, or the knowledge, I should say, and the skills that came forward. Things, you know, that have been talked about on the platform and with the members that I had never even gave a second thought to. But actually, after talking to some people, I thought, I need to go away and think about that. So over the last few years, it's just been transformational for me, both mindset and business and just everything, really. So yeah, it's I never really used to like myself very much, but I think subconsciously it's because I just wasn't aware of what I could achieve. I wasn't aware, you know, I used to blame people for things. I used to I don't know, I just used to have a very, very different outlook in life, and I thought I was going to be static. Whereas, you know, now I realize that the sky's the limit, and you can do whatever you want. So
That's
yeah.
incredible. And I'm hearing, you know, there's you got a lot of power from other people sharing their stories, and that really helped you look within, grow from within, which is so vitally important when you want to, you know, really achieve your goals and desires. So I'm guessing, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it was understanding that power of sharing stories that perhaps was one of the inspirations for the book and for wanting to get that book out there, because you yourself have understood the power of other people's stories. We are all different. We all have different life experiences, all different, you know, terms of reference for where we are in our lives and how we got to where we are. And it's when you share those stories with other people, when you hear other people's stories, as you say, it makes you think, oh, actually, maybe I need to look at that. Perhaps I could do that differently. And I think that's incredible. The fact that in doing that, setting up Revival Sanctuary has helped you to grow so much, so that you can now be a pioneer for other women sharing their stories, you know, and owning the power that comes with that. Because as you said earlier on, you know, it makes you quite vulnerable sharing your story.
Yeah, it does.
And when you wrote your chapter for the book, was that the first time you shared your story?
First time ever. Yeah. And as you'll probably know, well, although my chapter is the first one in the book, I wasn't the first one to share my story. It took me over a year to actually share my story. I was very reluctant. And to be honest, I have changed bits of the story within the book as to what's on the website, because I've opened up more on the website because it's a safe space. But in the book, I've given a lot, but not as much as probably, you know, on the website. But it's like I said, it's very cathartic to write it down, and I could have kept writing. There is definitely a few books in there. But actually sharing your story is such a vulnerable point especially, and this is why I really, really encourage other women, especially within the platform, to acknowledge each other's stories, because the lack of acknowledgement can send you back into your shell and you don't want to share again. So it's really, really important to acknowledge and to, I guess, read other women's journeys. And I think that's why this book is so powerful as well, is because they've put themselves out there. We've all put ourselves out there. You know, we're sitting sometimes like that, but we've put ourselves out there, and you know, by people buying the book, reading the book, that's just amazing. It's an acknowledgement in itself. So yeah, very, very powerful.
That's fantastic. And you've been able to get together a group of women in this book from not just the UK, but from all over the world, haven't you? Where are some of the other authors from?
So we've got the US, we've got a few ladies from the US, we've got Sweden, we've got, oh God, trying to remember now. We've got quite a few ladies from Europe. But yeah, that's the whole point, because the Revival Sanctuary platform is a global platform. It's open to women from all over the world. So everybody gets an opportunity if they want to be in this book or any of the other books that we're thinking about doing. Anybody can do it. You know, it's a fantastic opportunity to become an author, to work in a team, to be part of a bigger collaborative project, and to really, really build those relationships. And I think within this sort of project, that's what happens, because people get to know each other, especially through these sorts of things, the interviews, Deb, afterwards. And well, as you probably know, we've pushed the first book as much as we possibly can, and there's so much more to do as well. But it's about keeping up that momentum. It's about working as a team, and everybody that's been in the first book have really, really enjoyed it. They've really enjoyed getting to know each other, and they've enjoyed the whole process. So yeah, it's a really powerful thing to do, and it's something I would advise anybody to, you know, give a go to. Even if you're already an author, it's still a really, really nice project to be part of. And if you're not an author already, it's, you know, it's a no-brainer, really. Perfect opportunity to become one.
Absolutely. And of course you have a magazine as well, don't you? Which, did the book come first, the magazine come first? Which one did you think of first?
The chicken and egg. Well, the magazine actually, the magazine was born out of the retreat, because when Revival Sanctuary first started, it was actually just going to be a retreat. That's a whole other story, but it evolved into the platform. But because the retreat was such a success, I was always looking for a retreat with certain elements. I could never find one. And when I created Motivate Retreat, it was brilliant. Even if I don't say so myself, it was really, really good. Everybody had a fantastic time last year. So after that, I started thinking along the lines of, what can I do to, I guess, add an addition to expand on this idea. And then around about November, I had an idea about the magazine, but it was just a very slight idea. It was just one of those kind of moments. And then I just let it pass. I thought, okay, magazine, maybe sometime in the future. But then it came quicker than I thought, because when we had lockdown, everybody was thinking, how can we do something different? How can we get online more? And then the magazine idea came back to me. And within 6 weeks, Motivate magazine was born and published. And yeah, now it's full steam ahead. So it's just a really, really good magazine. It's a fantastic read. And again, it gives people the opportunity to be seen, to be published, and to work together, because we do have an element of collaboration within there as well, which, you know, most of the article writers have embraced already. So yeah, it's great.
And of course, this is what Revival Sanctuary is all about. You know, your tagline or strapline is collaboration over competition, which I think speaks volumes for where you want it to go, how you feel about working with other women. And to me, that suggests that you have come so far from those days in Glasgow, where you were a bit of a wild child, where you were sort of running the gamut of the girl gangs of bullies, and to be where you are now, helping other women lift each other up. You know, collaborating with each other to build their businesses, get them more visible, and using all of the means available to you to enable women to share their stories, pass their wisdom on perhaps to the younger generation or to other women who may be experiencing something similar to what they've already gone through, to give them strength and hope and support as well. It's incredible. And you know, just the story you've just told of the magazine and how that came into being, and how you used the lockdown period to get that magazine out there, just shows to me how your mind works and how creative you can get. And a final question, I guess, is, do you get a lot of that creativity from your mum? Because I know in the book you say your mum is your biggest inspiration, and you've watched what she went through in her life and that's inspired you. Would you say you get a lot of that from your mum?
Yeah, probably. I've always, and I was on a podcast yesterday where I was asked, how do you get from your idea to implementation, really? And my answer to that was, I've always been a doer. Always, even in my wild child days, if I had a job to do, and I've always been a grafter, so any place that I worked for, you know, I put in 150%. So yeah, I think my mum is very creative. My mum has always been a doer, and she still is, even at 82. She's still very much, you know, it needs to be done now. I'm not quite like that. I'm more of a procrastinator. But I still get the job done. I thrive on deadlines. I thrive on targets. And yeah, I would say I probably take most of my creativity from my mum's side. My dad's not very creative. My dad's more academic. But my mum is always been very innovative and, you know, thrifty, I think the word is. So yeah, I probably take a lot from that side.
That's fantastic. And Sharon, what next for Revival Sanctuary? I mean, you've got so many ideas. What's next?
Well, for me personally, because Revival Sanctuary is such a hub, I see the Motivate magazine as part of that hub, although we do welcome both genders to the Motivate magazine. We've got another project coming up in September, which again will be for both, but again, it is going to be part of that hub. So for me personally, my goal is by 2022 to have 5 online platforms doing different things, but still with the same message and helping the same people. So, you know, still looking at solopreneurs, micro and small businesses, and people aspiring to have their own business. That is the group of people that I want to help. There's lots of companies out there helping the big corporates. So I want to concentrate on the small business owner and people like myself, basically. So within the next 2 years, I hope to have another couple of platforms up and running, doing one thing or another. I have got some ideas, surprisingly. But I do need to get this one launched in September first. In terms of Revival, I just want to keep growing Revival and, you know, keep doing what we're doing, keep collaborating, keep bringing up collaborative projects for people to be involved in, you know, and just helping people, really. That's what it's all about, and that's what gives me the most reward, Deb.
That's fantastic. I think, Sharon, you know, I described you earlier as a pioneer. I think you really are a champion for women and putting women on a platform that they're comfortable with to share their story, in recognizing that women have a voice, that women have something important to say, you know, in this day and age where there's so much equality and everything else going on. And I don't want to have a political discussion right now, but you know, you really are somebody who is pushing that female agenda. I'm not even going to say feminist agenda, but certainly the agenda of female empowerment. And I think that's to be applauded. And I can't wait to see what comes out of Revival Sanctuary, what Sharon Brown does next. You know, we're both of the age where I'm sure we both remember that book, What Katie Did.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to rename it What Sharon Did and say what Sharon did next, because I think we need to watch what you're doing next, because you have so many incredible plans. You've got a great inspirational story, and I know we haven't heard the half of it yet, and maybe one day that will come out. You know, you've got that solid foundation in your mum inspiring you to do everything you've done, and that drive and determination that keeps you going. You know, you're a grafter, as you said, and you know, you've come a long way from those days on that council estate in Glasgow. You really are an example to all of the women that join you in Revival Sanctuary, to all of the women that are just thinking, I wonder, should I get involved? Should I join Revival Sanctuary? And, you know, I would certainly say, absolutely get involved in Revival Sanctuary, absolutely get involved in the next volume of the book or the next magazine, whatever it is, because it's a really gentle and supportive environment to get your story out there. Do you have any final words for the people watching this interview who are thinking, oh, maybe I'd like to get involved, but I'm not so sure?
Just do it. I would always say, just do it, because you never know until you try. And, you know, I wouldn't have got this far if I hadn't tried a lot of different things. So just do it. You know, if it fits with you, if our ethos and our values fit with you, just come on board and see what we're all about. And you never know what becomes of it.
Incredible. Sharon, it's been an absolute delight speaking to you today. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Debs.